Okay, this is... I'm going to read you The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies by Beatrix Potter. The 100th anniversary edition. This was read a long time ago, sweetheart. Okay. It is said that the effect of eating too much lettuce is soporific. I've never felt sleepy after eating lettuces, but then I am not a rabbit. They certainly have a very soporific effect upon the Flopsy Bunnies. When Benjamin Bunny grew up, he married his cousin Flopsy. They had a large family, and they were very improvident and cheerful. I do not remember the separate names of their children, but they were generally called the Flopsy Bunnies.
This is how this was.
That one does have stickers. And there was not always quite enough to eat. Benjamin used to borrow cabbages from Flopsy's brother Peter Rabbit, who kept a nursery garden. Sometimes Peter Rabbit had no cabbages to spare. When this happened, the Flopsy Bunnies went across the field to a rubbish heap in the ditch outside Mr. McGregor's garden. Mr. McGregor's rubbish heap was a mixture. There were jam pots and paper bags and mountains of chopped grass from the mowing machine, which always tasted oily, and some rotten vegetable marrows and an old boot or two. One day, oh joy, there were a large quantity of overgrown lettuces which had shot into flower. They were happy that day.
It's not working, Mimi.
No, those stickers are too old. The Flopsy Bunnies simply stuffed lettuces. Whoa, look at them sleeping, honey. By degrees, one after another, they were overcome with slumber, and they lay down in the mown grass. Benjamin was not so much overcome as his children. Before going to sleep, he was sufficiently wide awake to put a paper bag over his head to keep off the flies. See a paper bag over his head? The little Flopsy Bunnies slept delightfully in the warm sun. From the lawn beyond the garden came the distinct clickety-clack sound of the mowing machine, and blue bottles buzzed about the wall, and a little mouse picked over the rubbish among the jam pots. I can tell you her name. She was called Thomasina Tittlemouse, a wood mouse with a long tail. Why don't you put them here, honey? This is a better idea. Yeah, I see that. She rushed across the paper bag and awakened Benjamin Bunny. There's the Tittlemouse. You see her? Right here? The mouse apologized profusely and said that she knew Peter Rabbit. While she and Benjamin were talking, close under the wall, they heard a heavy tread above their heads. Uh-oh, somebody's coming. And suddenly Mr. McGregor...
She's coming.
Yes. And suddenly Mr. McGregor emptied out a sack full of lawn mowings right upon the top of the sleeping Flopsy Bunnies. Benjamin shrank down under his paper bag. The mouse hid in a jam pot. They were hiding. The little rabbits smiled sweetly in their sleep under the shower of grass. They did not awake because the lettuce had been so soporific. Remember, soporific makes them sleep. They dreamt that their mother Flopsy was tucking them up in a hay bed. How nice. Mr. McGregor looked down after emptying his sack. He saw some funny little brown tips of ears sticking up through the lawn mowings. He stared at them for some time. Presently a fly settled on one of them and it moved. Mr. McGregor climbed down onto the rubbish heap. Uh-oh. Here comes Mr. McGregor, honey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, he said as he dropped them in his sack. The Flopsy Bunnies dreamt their mother was turning them over in bed. They stirred a little in their sleep, but still they did not wake up. Mr. McGregor tied up the sack and left it on the wall. He went to put away his mowing machine. While he was gone, Mrs. Flopsy Bunny, who had remained at home, came across the field. She looked suspiciously at the sack and wondered where everybody was. She's trying to find her little bunny children. Her little baby bunnies, isn't she? Then the mouse came out of her jam pot, and Benjamin took the paper bag off his head, and they told the doleful tale. That means a very sad tale. Benjamin and Flopsy were in despair. They could not undo the string. But Mrs. Tittlemouse was a resourceful person, and she nibbled a hole in the bottom corner of the sack. The little rabbits... Okay, Mimi will help you. The little rabbits were pulled out...
Put me on this book.
Okay. They were pulled out and pinched to wake them. Just a minute, that one's not working. Their parents stuffed the empty sack with 3 rotten vegetable marrows and an old blacking brush and 2 decayed turnips. Then they all hid under the bush and watched for Mr. McGregor.
That is not working.
No, they're not working. The stickers are too old, honey. Mr. McGregor came back and picked up the sack and carried it off. He carried it hanging down as if it were rather heavy. They watched him go into his house. And when they crept up to the windows, and then they crept up to the window to listen. After they followed him at a safe distance. I missed that line. Mr. McGregor threw down the sack on the stone floor in a way that would have been extremely painful to the Flopsy bunnies. If they would have had been inside it, they could hear him drag his chair on the flags and chuckle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, said Mr. McGregor. Eh? What's this? What have they been spoiling now? Inquired Mrs. McGregor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little fat rabbits, repeated Mr. McGregor, counting on his fingers. 1, 2, 3. See, they're peeking in the window. That's a good book. We can read that one next time. Don't you be silly. What do you mean, you silly old man? In the sack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, replied Mr. McGregor. The youngest Flopsy bunny got up on the windowsill. Mrs. McGregor took hold of the sack and felt it. She said she could feel 6, but they must be old rabbits because they were so hard and all different shapes. Not fit to eat, but the skins will do fine to line my old cloak, she said. Line your old cloak, shouted Mr. McGregor. I shall sell them and buy myself baccy. Rabbit tobacco. I shall skin them and cut off their heads. Uh-oh. Mrs. McGregor untied the sack and put her hand inside. Did she find any rabbits? No. She became very angry when she felt the vegetables. She said that Mr. McGregor had done it on purpose. And Mr. McGregor was very angry, too. One of the rotten marrows came flying through the kitchen window and hit the youngest Flopsy bunny. It was rather hurt. See them all running away? Then Benjamin and Flopsy thought that it was time to go home, so Mr. McGregor did not get his tobacco, and Mrs. McGregor did not get her rabbit skins. But next Christmas, Thomasina Tittlemouse got a present of enough rabbit wool to make herself a cloak and a hood, and a handsome muff and a pair of warm mittens.